24/7, 365. The fantasy season never dies. Welcome to Every Day is Draft Day. Presented by Champions Round.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the latest edition of Every Day is Draft Day. I am your host, Eagle Dan FF. Joining me, as always, to talk some NFL free agency recap / draft rumors. Steffi Smalls. What's up, Steph?
What's going on? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever, which is weird.
It's been years.
Like normally, it does kind of feel like years.
I missed you so much.
It does. I missed you too. A lot of things are going on.
A lot of things are happening. A lot of stuff is going around. A lot of free agency is more or less over with. Turning our attention to the draft. So a bunch of rumors are percolating. So let's just jump right into it. So first of all, we have percolating is the word of the day. Figured I'd sound smart for once. So
okay.
All right. So the first rumor going around is that the Pittsburgh Steelers will trade up to go up and grab Malik Willis. This is, part of the whole where the QB is going to go phenomenon with Sam Howell, doing great at his pro day, and Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett. And you have the Panthers, Seahawks, Falcons, a couple teams need a QB. So do you think that Pittsburgh will want to jump as high as they might need to go to grab Willis, one, and how high do you think they need to jump to grab him?
It's a good question. I feel like not a lot of things. Something that has picked up steam is obviously Malik going in that second area, even, some very wild take that someone will trade up to the 101 to get him. While I was looking at it, I think one of the things that people are not realizing is I think that the Carolina Panthers are a team that we need to look for in causing a disruption when it comes to the quarterbacks, because their first pick is 6 overall, and then they do not pick again until the 4th round at 137. If they want to take a quarterback, it's going to have to happen then. And if enough smoke screens happen, are they going to be the team that wants to trade up and do that? I think after seeing their picks, I'm leaning more towards Carolina taking a quarterback. So I guess it's going to depend. I know both of us don't know that either of these guys should really be going in that top 10, but if Malik is off the board, do they go ahead and take that Kenny Pickett? Because you're sure as hell not getting someone in the 4th round. And it starts to get interesting for these other teams too. Like even Seattle, they have the 9th pick. Could they trade down, get a little bit more? And they still have 2 picks there in the 2nd. And could they go and get a guy like Ridder if he's to fall? Could they go and get a guy like Matt Corral? There's some connections between those 2 teams. So I think that the Panthers are a team that ever needs to keep their eye out for in taking a quarterback. Because what happens if they don't? They're going into the year with Sam Darnold? I don't know about that. It doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. So I don't think that Carolina is being talked about a lot. I find it interesting that Carolina was like this big destination for all the free agent quarterbacks or the ones that were going to be traded like Wilson and Watson. And then, they strike out there and they're still not even mentioned as someone that could, go and take a quarterback, even though they obviously still have the need. So you make a really good point there where, they're definitely in that, besides Pittsburgh, they're in that dark horse type of slot where they could definitely go up and to the 1 or 2 spot and get, Willis if they so choose. And it'll be a lot easier for them because they have so much less farther to go. It's a lot easier to jump up from 6 to 1 or 2 than it is to drop from where the Steelers are at 20 to do it. So, it'll be interesting to see where they go. And it seems to be Willis is going to be taken, the first quarterback taken. I think it'll be interesting to see who gets taken after him. Like, is Howell, with his pro day, does he jump up to the number 2 spot now? Is it Pickett? And is one team not as worried about his hands as everyone seems to think that they should be? It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where the quarterbacks go, where the teams that need quarterbacks, go in the draft.
And these teams are drafting so close together because you've got the Panthers at 6. Then at 8th, you have Atlanta. Then at 9th, you have Seattle. That puts a lot of pressure on these teams. And, you'll know this because as an Eagles fan, as a Giants fan, there was all this chatter because, the Giants had 4 people at Sam Howell's pro day. Then the Eagles were there, Commanders were there, Steelers were there, Seahawks were there. I think everyone needs to realize, as much as, yes, maybe Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts may not be necessarily the future for either of these teams, they are 2 teams that have several first-round picks. If I am these front offices, I'm pretending like I'm taking a quarterback because they have great capital there for someone to come up and trade and for them to, maybe get some more picks. So as much as it's exciting to talk about the Giants or the Eagles maybe doing something, taking a quarterback, again, they're also in a really good position to trade back in this first round.
I love that segue you just did there. That was really good. Very, very, very nice. Very nice. But that is the it's a good topic. Both teams are in the NFCs. Both teams have multiple first round picks, early-ish first round picks. Obviously, the Giants have the 2 top 10, and the Eagles have the 3 in the top 20. So I think that do the either team use both? Do they or all 3 in the Eagles case? Do they use one to trade back and get more assets maybe for next year, which is supposed to be another great class? It's interesting because I think the Eagles and Giants are kind of in a similar space football wise. They have that QB with the question marks. Not a lot of talent, proven talent around them, but with some hope and some decent defense. So, what do they do? Is the players that are going to be available, and in the Giants' case, they're going to have a much better selection of players than the Eagles are. Are the players that are going to be available to them, worth sticking at those spots and taking, or is it worth, maybe, dropping down a little bit where the players are still good? There's that much talent difference. I don't think a lot of people, once you get past like 10 to 25, like the talent is pretty much, even across multiple positions. But so it'd be interesting to see where they go. If you were the Giants, where would you do with the 5 and 7?
I'm probably staying at 5 with the assumption that Evan Neal or Icky is there. Unless, at 5, but 7, I'm trying to move out of. And I think they're in a really good place, like we just said, with the Panthers at 6, with the Falcons at 8, with Seattle at 9. I think they're in a good spot where if the Panthers shake things up, maybe one of these teams wants to, hop up so that they can try and get the next guy, because then there might be a fall off. And I think it really depends on how the quarterbacks roll, or maybe one of these teams has their eyes on someone. It depends on who is actually going by, best player available and what they want and what the team's needs are, but also not like teams like the Falcons. I don't know that it's in their best interest to go straight for to take a wide receiver, which they very much might do. Fine. Just don't know what that's going to do for them long-term down the road, taking a wide receiver in this class when you have an abundance of needs. I don't know how you're feeling with the Eagles. I think the Eagles with 3 in the first, I'd be surprised if they don't trade out of one of those.
I think with the Eagles, I think, they would probably either trade out of 15 or 16. I think those are obviously more valuable than the 19. I think the only way we trade out is if we get that 2023 first. But personally, for me, I think that the Eagles are talent deficient to the point where I wouldn't mind them taking all 3 picks this year and using them. I think that the players that would be available, like Burks, Davis, London, whatever, Dean, there are multiple players that are going to be in those positions, especially along the defense where we have basically no talent at all. that's young, except for maybe Josh Sweat. I think that it would behoove them to, if they don't get like a 2023 first type of deal, to use all 3 picks on those kinds of players. Maybe even even if you want to spend another first on a wide receiver, I wouldn't, because I think we both agree wide receiver is really deep this year. So I wouldn't probably use a first on them. I'd probably maybe shoot for maybe a Christian Watson in round 2 if he lasts that long or something like that. But I think from where we are personally as a team, I just think that we have way too many old expensive guys and not a lot of young talent that to build on. So I think, having 3 firsts is something that doesn't come around every day. So I'd use that to kind of rebuild the foundation, especially on defense.
Right. And you guys are also, I mean, the Eagles, for people that have not looked, have a crap load of picks. Like, not just a few picks. They have a lot of picks. So you guys are in a position too where, like, you can start maybe trading some of those other picks if you wanted to, the second, third. When you start getting to those other rounds, teams have done that before, just so you can move up, but you might gain something from it. But I agree that I think taking all those first rounds wouldn't be I wouldn't be opposed to that for them. I think, I wouldn't be surprised if you guys end up taking another wide receiver in the first. It definitely wouldn't shock me. But again, a lot of that's going to come down to which one of these teams ahead of you decides to go and pull that trigger on the first wide receiver, because I think, especially once you start getting to those second half of the first round, then we're talking about teams that could very much use a wide receiver, and it could start one of these, like, holy crap, now we see like 5 wide receivers come off the board or something crazy. So it kind of depends on those picks around there. And especially with there's still going to be some more dominoes to fall as far as wide receiver goes. I know the next thing we wanted to talk about briefly is there's all these, AJ Brown's putting cryptic tweets out. Carroll is saying, he intends for, or whatever the phrasing was, which is exactly what he used when they talked about Russell Wilson. So how are you feeling about, the Packers and Jets in the wide receiver game that's left? I mean, really, it depends, because now we're talking about Metcalf and Lockett and AJ Brown. Because you also, what are you choosing from after that? And Antonio Brown that went cuckoo, and OBJ that is coming off an injury. You've got a Landry who is asking for a lot of money. And then you start running out of options there. And you also have to start looking at, you give up Metcalf, and then you're going to turn it around. I guess it's interesting in the Seattle sense that now that we've talked about the quarterbacks, do they gain a first, like some value there where they can play with it a little bit should quarterbacks start going off the board? And I know they say like Drew Lock, but I don't know that he's a sustainable. You're lying. Yeah, I mean, I think it's cute, but it kind of depends if Seattle realizes, like, are we blowing it up or not? Because they said they're not in a rebuild, which is insanity, because you very much are in a rebuild, whether you want to accept it or not. The sooner you do, the better. But I don't know how you feel about these wide receiver, rumors now that are floating around.
If I were I think if I were Seattle, I'd be more inclined to trade Lockett than Metcalf. I think Metcalf is, that kind of cornerstone player that you want to look for, like that you want to hit in the draft, and the fact that they did. I think he's worth keeping around. I think that it would be a very, very egregious mistake on their part to think that they're not in a rebuild, considering they got rid of both their best offensive player in Russell Wilson and the leader of their defense in Bobby Wagner, and they're gone. So, I mean, they don't have, like, they have Metcalf and Lockett, but then what? I mean, Drew Lock isn't going to do anything. He can get all the excuses you want for what happened in Denver, but he didn't perform. He doesn't. So, I mean, if I were Green Bay, I'd take some of the picks I got for trading away Devontae Adams, and I'd call Seattle and say, hey, what did it take for Tyler Lockett? And have him go there. Honestly, I think that'd be, that would help Seattle, go towards this rebuild that they so desperately need, because, they've been, hanging around ever since the Legion of Boom days, but they haven't, with Russell Wilson gone. I mean, they're just, the rest of the roster isn't good enough to compete, especially in that division that they're in. But I think that in Green Bay's case, you have Rodgers, so you have like that key component. You just need people to throw to him, for him to throw to. So, calling and getting, a Lockett or, signing, I don't think I would sign OBJ, because I don't think he's supposed to be ready until the end of the season. So signing him for this year is kind of a wash, unless you're you think you're really going to make the playoffs, and then he might be able to help there. And then, like everyone else, is anyone really going to take another shot on Antonio Brown? Like, I wouldn't. He's talented, but is his talent now at this point in his career really worth, him walking off the field in the middle of a game?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, it's a little different for how Seattle and Green Bay have to look at it, because Green Bay is still obviously, thinking he has a chance to get to that Super Bowl with, re-signing Rodgers. So it would behoove them, I think, to make a trade with both, to have Green Bay, take Lockett, give Seattle more ammo to go into a rebuild, which is a good time for them now, honestly, because the Rams are going to be the top dog in that division for a couple more years, and then by the time they have to pay everybody and that team falls apart, you have a chance to Seattle to come in with the young guys in this core you can build the next year or two, and to that control. So I think it's the perfect timing now to admit to yourself, hey, it's time to regroup and think where we want to go long term. And send out some guys that aren't going to be there. Tyler Lockett isn't, a spring chicken. He's 29. He's still, a really good receiver, but how many, years does he really have left in elite production? Metcalf is 24. I'm not trading Metcalf. Trading Metcalf, it's just basically signaling you're not giving your franchise, your fan base hope for anything, because then you have literally nothing to look forward to. So I keep Metcalf personally if I'm Seattle, and find a way to deal Lockett.
Yeah. And the Packers historically, this is kind of the way the cookie crumbles, where Rodgers just isn't the guy that loves taking some rookie wide receiver under his wing, usually makes guys work for it. I mean, you see him, he's so petty. If you drop the ball, you're not getting the ball for another several weeks, if not for the rest of the season. He's like that. And we've seen him do that. He even went out of his way to bring Randall Cobb. So is he someone that would prefer a vet there? I don't know. And I think it would benefit the Packers even to go and finally get a flashy weapon, actually work with him, actually use one of your younger guys, one of your draft picks on a wide receiver now that you don't have Devontae Adams, now that you have Aaron Rodgers under this big contract. I think one of the things that between Kansas City and Green Bay that they both have in common is they have really expensive quarterback contracts now. So does it make sense to go out and, sign someone for X amount of money when it is a deeper class that you might be able to get someone that you can have starting tomorrow? So for them, I don't know. And the Jets keep coming into question. I don't know what to make of the Jets. It first of all sounds like literally no one wants to go there. And after that, I think they have the draft. They're another team with the draft capital to if you want to take a guy in the first round, then do it. I don't think it's out of the question either. So I don't know that any of these teams, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Again, I would also be surprised. What are you going to do? You're going to get rid of Metcalf to have to go into the draft and hope that a guy turns out like Metcalf. Is that the smartest decision for this team? Keeping some kind of continuity there now that I don't know why they don't realize this, but you've basically blown it up and you are in a rebuild. So whether you want to accept that now or later kind of is up to you. And so we'll see. It's very interesting that now, and I think a lot of it comes down to too, everyone's getting paid. So now that Metcalf, what is this contract year? Is this going to be the time that they're okay, let's try and do what they did with Tyreek Hill, but I don't know.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. I mean, the main point is Seattle really just has to be realistic about where they are as a franchise. If they don't want to spend the ton of money on Metcalf and want to do what they did with Tyreek, then go for it. But just be honest with yourselves about where you're at. And I think
you also suck at drafting. You suck at drafting. So do you trust that you guys can and draft a fashion that's going to help your franchise move forward? They have very much proven, especially with their picks alone, that they do not do that very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you make a great point about Rodgers hating rookies and being petty like that. Because that's pretty much what he's going to have to, a rookie is going to start. You can't go into a season with Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, and someone named Juwan Winfrey as your starting wide receivers and they expect to be taken seriously. You just aren't. So, whether it's, it's Burks or London or Wilson or one of those guys, if they draft him, is going to start. So he has to, get over himself a little bit and realize that, their rookies are going to make mistakes, but he's your best option out there right now.
Right. We barely even see how much Amari Rodgers did we even see last year? Not much. That's
what do you have? 3 snaps? I didn't see him at all.
Yeah. And you've seen Lazard. Is interesting in the fact that if he can stay healthy and with the trend of how Rodgers has, even his history there has played out as far as whoever his wide receiver one is. But again, like, you still are lacking, like, they still need to do something. It's not like, even if you are a believer in Lazard, that's great. I just don't, like, that's not enough. They need to fill a gap there.
Absolutely. Yeah. They do. They really do. So, I mean, but can they though? Like, that's the thing. Like, both these teams, both Seattle and in Green Bay, in various respects, need to have an honest look in the mirror about what the reality of going forward in the next couple of years is. And Rodgers is going to have to throw to a rookie, and he's going to have to be willing to let him make mistakes and learn, because you can't just shut him out, because he's going to be a primary target in your offense. So, I mean,
right.
But it'll be
what a great guy to help develop a rookie. Like, he should recognize how awesome that is, as Aaron Rodgers, who is an elite quarterback. Like, when we talk about this elite and GOAT conversation, like, he is an elite quarterback. So why don't you use that to help develop your weapons in itself? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I'm sure we'll get some more movement as the week goes on, but it's going to be, very interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode of Every Day is Draft Day. Went through a lot of some rumors, including both of our respective teams. So it'll be really interesting to see. It's exactly 29 days to the draft. A month, the 29th. Yeah. So it's coming up quick. So it'll be really interesting to see where teams go, what the rest of free agency holds, if there's any more surprise trades, because we didn't have enough of them. So any final thoughts, Steph?
No, I think that's it. We'll see if anything pops up. Probably do another episode this week and follow along as is. We'll just be pumping out draft content up until we get to the draft, and it should be a good one.
Absolutely, yeah. And check on Champions Round, because there are a lot of fun things that are going on this offseason, things that we're going to be rolling out soon. So be sure to keep up to date with that.
Yes. Love it.
For Steph, I'm Dan. Everyone, have a good day. See you later on in the week.
See ya.